And then you've got the other version. You've got the socialist version. That's the other way of organizing human society. And that model has an enormous advantage because it seems to imply a moral system wrapped up within the economic system. And so the evil is camouflaged and obscured by the terminology of for the people and caring about people and compassion, and it's for the poor and so on and so forth. And here you've got these two models presented very clearly in the 11th chapter of Genesis. It's the story of the Tower of Babel. And there again, there are several very important points that are just a part of a traditional biblical understanding of human life and the organizing of human life. And the story and the point in a nutshell is very simple. Imagine, if you would, that we pause and we carry on with the program, and then later on this evening, I get as many of you as I can to cluster around, and I say, hey, everybody, I saw there's a Home Depot store not that far from here. Come on, tonight when the program's done, let's go to the Home Depot store and buy a whole bunch of 2x4s. Come on. You all look at each other. The sun getting to the sky? What's with him? But how about if instead of that I said, hey, everybody, we've got an evening clear before the program reconvenes in the morning. Why don't we build an extra room for the Institute? They're out of space. Let's build them another room. Let's work through the night and just make this happen. The sun's going to come up. There's going to be another room. You're all going to look at me and say, huh, interesting. How do we do it? I say, no problem. We're going to go down to Home Depot, buy a whole lot of lumber, and then we'll work through the night, and somebody will go and get beer that we can keep ourselves refreshed. And this is going to be a load of fun. And there's a possibility I actually might get a few of you to join me doing that. But only if I tell you what the goal is before I tell you how you do it. If I tell you about the doing, let's go get lumber, I haven't fired your spirit. I haven't excited your imagination. There's nothing there. With that as background, you'll probably be astonished to hear that in those mysterious 9 verses in chapter 11 of Genesis, and again, you've got to realize, this is a book that lies at the heart of Western civilization. In the middle of the 15th century, when Johann Gutenberg invented the printing press, he didn't run off as his first venture the Dusseldorf telephone directory. It was the Bible. This was the center of Western civilization. The words were studied and pored over for meaning, and people understood. This wasn't just a narrative about long-forgotten people. This was a blueprint to existence. It was a comprehensive theory on the totality of all reality. And so they really looked at this section and they said, oh, wait a sec, this is very striking, this is very amazing. Do you know what it actually says in chapter 11? It says that the people gathered together and said, hey, everybody, let's make bricks. Wow, let's make bricks. And everybody said, yeah, let's go make bricks. And then afterwards they say, now what do we do with the bricks? Oh, well, we'll build a big city with a tower that goes all the way up to the sky that Bruegel can make a painting of this and everything is fine. So, well, why didn't you tell us what you wanted to do first? I did. You missed the point. The essence here is the bricks, not the tower. You see, there are 2 building materials available out there. One is stones, and the other is bricks. And there's 2 fundamental differences between stones and bricks. Stones are made by God, and each and every one of them is unique. Bricks are made by people, and they're all absolutely identical to one another. That's the whole point of bricks. And that was what the Tower of Babel was all about. It was a model of let's make bricks out of everybody. You're all going to be treated as if you're identical to one another, and this is going to be a creation of man. And what will come out of it? Yeah, will be the tower and so on and so forth. And it's not going to last very long, but that doesn't matter, because the important thing is to turn all human beings into bricks, not stones. That is very central to this understanding. The tower was led by a man called Nimrod. The guy he hated like poison was a guy called Abraham. And there was this eternal struggle between the 2 competing visions of how to organize society. The Abraham model, which is what built the United States of America. It's also what built ancient Israel. and you've got the Nimrod model, the centralized control from the center tower, where everything is controlled and everybody is forced to be exactly like everybody else. And it is not hard in that matrix to recognize the difference between moral and immoral, between right and wrong, between freedom and tyranny. There are not halfway measures. And let me do something at this point that I enjoy doing, because one of the key things about the Abrahamic model is that it is based on giving. It is not based on taking. It is based on creating and making, not on consuming and taking. The Abrahamic model is based on figuring out, how can I bless other people? What can I do for other human beings? I alluded earlier to the fact that my work is based on writing on a lot of this material, producing ancient Jewish wisdom in formats that make it accessible to each and every person in the United States of America. And what I would like to do, if I may, is perhaps express my appreciation by the process of perhaps doing the following. Let me ask this. Who has traveled the furthest to be here today? Well, I guess that would be me, Seattle. Well, thanks very much indeed. Where did you come from? Huh? Oh, my goodness. Does Honduras, do I hear anything higher than Honduras? Oh, come on. You came to this conference from Sydney, Australia? No, did you come here from Honduras for the conference? You did. And you're here for the conference. And now, when are you going back? Oh, my goodness.
There's 6 of us from Guatemala.
Really? Guatemala, Honduras, and Germany. Whereabouts? Really? Well, come up here. Really? Well, that's very generous. Then you come up here anyways. Come up here, because I would like to give you this. This is a package of some of the products that we make available. I'm not going to take time to tell you about them now because they're all here, but this is the one that we're discussing tonight, Thou Shalt Prosper. And this one on the top I see here is called The Perils of Profanity. This is very helpful for people who find themselves using bad language and realize how it impacts their money-making ability, how damaging it is to use language that is profane and destructive. Have you ever used any bad language? Is that something? Do you want to just tell me like some of the things you really say? No, don't. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Enjoy. There you go. And so, what we see are 2 fundamental models, an Abraham model and a Nimrod model. And what we see is a Nimrod model is based on taking from people, treating them as disposable, nothing but bricks. An Abraham model that recognizes the creative power of every single individual human being. And these 2 models flow from how we answer the 3 fundamental and transcendent questions of life. And if you don't know what the 3 transcendent questions of life are, just go on an airplane ride, particularly one that has lots of delays, and it's frustrating, and they don't have beverage service. Pretty soon you start talking to your neighbor, you start off grumbling and complaining to each other. Pretty soon there's communication going on, and you find the same questions being asked all the time, particularly if you're sitting next to a child. And the question's always the same. Where are you from? Where are you going? And what do you do? How do you help your fellow human beings? What do you do for them? I'm not nosy. I'm not just saying, how do you make a living? How do you make money? I'm saying, gee, what do you do for your fellow human beings? And those are the 3 basic questions. The 3 basic questions lie at the heart of the entire human experience. The 3 questions are, how did we get on this planet? And there really are only 2 answers to that. And the answers have real implications. The 2 answers are, number 1, the good Lord created us in his image and put us here. And a whole lot of people follow that view. And that is a belief. But don't forget, all the major decisions in our lives are made on the basis of beliefs, not knowledge. When you get married, you believe she's fantastic and you'll live happily ever after, or vice versa. It doesn't guarantee it. There are no facts. What's more, statistics, I hate that phrase, right? Well, people know, I think, that folks who try and obtain all the facts by living together before marriage, which seems to make all the sense in the world. Would you buy a car without driving it around the block, they say? But paradoxically, the marriage statistics for folks who actually try and get all the facts are not good, because there are certain major actions in life we do on the basis of belief, and it works better that way. You invest on belief. You due diligence, you find out everything you can, but if you actually had all the facts, there wouldn't be any profit left. That's how the market works. It's belief. And so people either believe that humans are on this planet because the good Lord created us in his image, with each and every one of us with a capacity to create and with a capacity to be unique, and he put us here. The only other way I'm aware of answering that question is that by a lengthy process of unaided materialistic evolution, primitive protoplasm turned into Bach and Beethoven. Oh, don't laugh. It's really rude to laugh at people's religions. So, do you know the third way? The only third way I know is little green men in spaceships came and put us here, but that only postpones the question, doesn't it? Where did they come from? So that doesn't really help. And so it is with the question of where we're going to end up and the question of what we're doing over here. But this fundamental question of, are we here by a process that renders us nothing but sophisticated animals, or are we here as unique beings touched by the finger of God? It's very, very important. Because if we are here only as a process of unaided materialistic evolution, then I'm nothing but a primate. I have less hair than many other primates. You didn't have to laugh at that one. I don't have as good eyesight. I can't run as quickly, but I'm basically an animal. I happen to have a brain that other animals don't have the same, but that's all I am. If that's the case, then it is only right and appropriate that I should be taken care of by a zookeeper or a farmer in the Great Beltway. That makes all the sense in the world. Because if I am an animal, and that makes me the same as all my other animals, and that is, a farmer or a zookeeper does exactly what he has to do. If he gives all the cows the same amount of food, comes back a few hours later and finds that one cow has accumulated most of it and all the other cows have nothing left, he'll do what any smart farmer does. He'll redistribute the food. It's the moral right thing to do. And so through this mechanism, it becomes apparent that if indeed our vision is one without any shred of spirit and without a shred of moral foundation, then I would have to conclude that socialism is the default position for good and decent people. Barbarism and maybe tribalism is the default position for people who don't have the act together. But if you strip away the foundations of faith and the belief system by means of which the human being is something unique and wondrous and special, then you also have stripped away the foundations of a system that says freedom is more important than equality. Because for animals, equality is more important than freedom. The two don't go together. And for human beings, freedom trumps equality. That's really what it's all about. And so we ask the question of what's right about the free market economic system. The answer is almost everything. In and of itself, you mustn't make the mistake of thinking that it is a moral system as well. It's an economic system, but it's an economic system that is held up and propped and maintained by the existence of a spiritually based moral system as well. And that is an unbreakable combination. It's one that is endured, and it is one that is created for us all here, the greatest model of prosperity and freedom that the world has ever seen in all of our time. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all so much for being part of the Mises Institute.